Hello everyone, what's up? It's Max with Out of Spec Reviews. I am here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado with the Mercedes EQE 350 4MATIC. So this is basically the baby brother to the EQS, which of course is that kind of electrified S-Class-esque, very slippery aerodynamic fish in Mercedes lineup. Well, this is the E-Class variant of that, and it is awfully similar. Better in some ways, obviously smaller and different in others. So the one we have here, like I said, is that 350 4MATIC, and I can't give you driving impressions today, but I've been living it for a day, and what I want to do is just give the impressions that I can before embargo that have to do with the trim and the specs of it. So here it is, right, that EQE 350 4MATIC. We don't have official pricing yet, but I think we're expecting somewhere around the $70,000 price range for a trim like this. And what are we doing? Well, it's a 90 kilowatt hour battery, so that's supposed to give it about 340 miles of range, give or take. And it also has all-wheel drive, of course, because it's Mercedes 4MATIC. So there are dual motors in this. There is a rear-wheel drive version, but this one produces 288 horsepower and I believe about 560 pound-feet of torque because it has two motors. So the rear-wheel drive one has the same horsepower but less torque. So this one should be a little bit quicker off the line. They're saying 0 to 60 in a little over 5.5 seconds. That is actually slower than the Mercedes E450, the gas equivalent to this car, which is also considerably cheaper. But of course, this is an electric car, so it comes with a premium. Some design touches to note is, well, it's very EQS-like. You have the TriStar, the Mercedes emblem, of course, hiding the sensor for some of the adaptive driving assistance technology, which is pretty good in this vehicle. Impressions of that as I drove it to come later. But you can imagine it'll be good based off EQS and other experience in the Mercedes systems. Of course, you get your high-end headlights here. And then just the design that overall is very aerodynamic. I believe it's a 0.22 coefficient of drag here, so not quite 0.20 like the EQS, but that's because it's a marginally shorter wheelbase. There's less of a tail here to kind of funnel that air through the back. But an aerodynamic touch I really do appreciate are these wheels, 19-inch aero rims, and I've got to say, as far as aerodynamic wheels go, I'm kind of a fan of these because of the way they perforate the the surface area of it. I think it doesn't look bad. Of course, if you're not a fan of aero wheels, you may not still like these, but for 19-inch aerodynamic wheels, it's not bad. So charging, well, it's going to be pretty similar from what you know on EQS. You have a charging port here where the gas door would be on a normal gas E-Class. And of course, that is your DC fast charging. So you're going to get 170 kilowatts of maximum input into this. And of course, you can, AC charge it, level 2 at home. But that DC fast charging does put it behind some rivals. Like, let's think of, I don't know, the Genesis G80 electric, which recently came out. That, of course, is going to have the very fancy 800 volt charging that Hyundai and Kia are doing, and Genesis Group. So that will charge much quicker. That also has more power. It'll be a bit sportier. But this is a Mercedes-Benz, so you can expect the luxury, the fitment of this to be very luxurious, and of course it is. I do like the way they've approached the aerodynamic door handles here. Other rivals would of course include the Model S, which can also be offered with, a similar dual motor configuration. More range. So this is going to have more range than the Genesis, but this is going to be comparable more so to range of a Tesla. Of course, it can't use the Tesla supercharger, but in terms of charging, the 170 kilowatt peak rate is not bad. Not the worst in the segment, not the best. EQE, there you can see that badging there. I'll just show you the other side of the exterior, and then we'll get in and take a look at the interior. Another thing to note that you can't option here while I'm on the exterior is rear wheel steering, and impressions of that to come, of course, in the driving once the embargo lifts, but this particular model is optioned with the up to 10-degree rear steering. So that's going to help you basically have a shorter turning radius, and at highway speeds, it's going to help you have more stable turns. That's a feature you also see in the Porsche Taycan base models, which you could argue this competes with. Those are going to be more expensive, significantly faster, but arguably less luxurious. So let me step into the passenger seat here. I'm going to use the aero door handles. I might have to, the proximity key might be a bit confused at the moment, so why don't we just manually do it. So there, those door handles slide out. luxurious as you would expect, and of course very aerodynamic, similar to EQS there. So if I open this up and get in, I'm actually just going to get on the passenger side just to give you an idea of what the space is like. So immediately you'll notice it's very quiet in here, typical Mercedes-Benz, very well controlled NVH. If you want to know what the NVH is like when driving, well, just wait for the embargo to lift. That'll be up. One of us will be reviewing that. But for these impressions, I can just tell you, being in it while it's quiet, it's got this pretty nice panoramic sunroof. I do like how Mercedes integrates this because it's ventable and you can open it. So that's kind of a cool. Not all the panoramic sunroofs let you do that. Also, these seats, the driver's seats are standard, ventilated and heated. You get a heated steering wheel as you would expect. I think that is all very nice. This model is not outfitted with that infamous or, appreciated, depending on your perspective, hyperscreen. I kind of like it because the hyperscreen, if I'm honest, for me is a lot. It can be very distracting combined with the interior lighting in here. So I like this. It's a bit more minimalist, but without the hyperscreen optioned, well, the passenger compartment does look admittedly kind of bare. Maybe it'd be cool if they magnetize this, kind of like Hyundai does on the Ioniq 5. So you could use it like a fridge magnet, maybe stick some reminders onto there or whatnot. You do get standard Burmeister audio system, very Mercedes, very German. That is a pretty good system, if I can tell you that before embargo. It is, as you would expect, very luxurious. Very well implemented system. In terms of the screens, let's power on the car into accessory mode. And you can see, of course, it has your, repositioning seats. By the way, I should add, these seats are really comfortable. And then, of course, it has the Mercedes-Benz user experience, MBUX, which is, as far as these systems go, not a bad system. It also does have essentially full screen CarPlay. CarPlay will be allowed to take up almost this entire space. So if I could demonstrate that, I'll switch into CarPlay. It can't start that because my phone's filming. But basically, just so you know, CarPlay will take up this whole space. For now, it's showing me the map. And then, of course, I have all of the standard configuration options. One of the features of Mercedes electric cars, just like you might have known on EQS, is that ability to, change your sound profiles. So that's going to be under, this is ambient lighting. Let's look at that first. Ambient light here, we have the multicolor. Mercedes has done interior lighting well for a while. It's super bright, even in daytime. And that's just a, classic kind of Mercedes, very flashy feature. And you can even do, toggle your brightness and effects. Right now it's operating at full brightness. But anyhow, let's go to settings for the vehicle. And that's where we're going to change our sound experience, which we can turn off if you're not into that. I'm kind of a fan. I can't talk about the driving experience with it, with what it does to the engine, or I should say the motor note, of how it pipes it in here. But I will say that starting and stopping this car is super luxurious. I'm going to actually show you that in a minute. Right now we're set to roaring pulse. There's basically 3 different sound experiences, as Mercedes calls them. But let's look at the back seat really quickly. Then I'm going to get in just to start the car up, show you what that's like. Of course, I will not be able to drive it today, but just give you an idea of that. By the way, standard Mercedes, the seat controls are on the door there. Very nice trim here, by the way. This is just really well fit, as you would expect. Nothing less from Mercedes. So I'm going to get in the back seat, and this is something that I think is a highlight of this car because it is an all-electric architecture. It is that EVA2 platform, same as the EQS, so bespoke electric platform. As a result, it has a pretty nice load floor. I'm 6'2", and I am reasonably comfortable in here, especially because of the way they've recessed the sunroof. I have headroom, which I don't always have in this kind of class of car, this wheelbase. So I like that. It's tight, but it's not bad. I can basically sit up straight all the way. My leg room is decent. The passenger seat is quite reclined at the moment. And you get your standard door cards. You get climate controls in the back here as well. And those are well implemented. Nothing over-engineered or fancy. No touchscreen here. Just standard buttons there on that switchgear. And overall, backseat experience, I think, is pretty good. But yeah, that's the back seat of the Mercedes. Let's show you the trunk, and then I'll get into the driver's seat. So the trunk on this is, I'll show you. It's not like the EQS. It doesn't open fully, but it is motorized. So power liftgate basically on a sedan. You don't see that all the time, but of course it's Mercedes. So you go and look here. decent amount of space. If I lift up this, you can see you have a flat kit and some, I believe, battery or packaging there. So, you know, it's not an enormous amount of space, and it's not that hatchback style, but as far as sedan trunks go, it's pretty good. I like the aperture. It's fairly wide for a sedan. Then, of course, you can fold manually the left and rear seats. I say manually, I just mean it's not power operated. It just folds them down. You can't motorize, fold them up. That would be more of a luxury, you know, type feature. Not $70,000, maybe more of $100,000. But anyhow, let's close the trunk using the power lift gate. That's pretty nice. Power trunk, I should just say. It's not a lift gate. It's not an SUV. There you go again. There's the badging. Let's get in the driver's seat and see what that experience is like. I just want to show you basically the startup. You can see my seats getting ready for me. By the way, it's not night, so I can't show you this, but this does do that illumination of the TriStar logo, the Mercedes-Benz logo on the ground at night. Very cool. So I will close the door here, and I'm going to actually get the car in startable driving mode, because Mercedes is one of those manufacturers who's still making you put your foot on the brake and do that before you can just get in, drive, and go. So I'm going to do that, and then you can, if you just heard that, well, that was a roaring pulse bringing this car to life. There is also Vivid Flux and Silver Waves as options that you can choose. And overall, I would say that the dash here is, well, it's familiar if you've seen EQS. This is not the hyperscreen, so these are discrete, separate screens. They're not connected by any cool, you know, glossy black stuff. By the way, you do have gloss black, and like every other car reviewer in the world has told you, this is questionable. But I do really like how Mercedes puts matte black plastics in here where you'll actually be touching. It's really just this decorative part of the trim here that they cover in gloss black. You can close this whole area, which is really nice, just like that. It slides into place. But if you have it open, there's a wireless charging compartment. There's 2 USB-C ports, very modern, very nice to see with Mercedes giving you that. And if you need more charging, there's actually 2 USB-C ports in here. And because Mercedes is Mercedes, they even give you an OEM USB-A adapter for all of you stuck on legacy technology. Nice to see. So 2 cup holders here are that kind of modular configuration where you can basically push to unlock them or actually stow them away for more space. And yeah, back to MBUX, you know, it's MBUX. You either like it or maybe you don't like it. I tend to like this instrument cluster. These are both roughly 12-inch screens, configured obviously slightly differently. This widescreen one here, well, you can of course change it between your different modes. I like the classic one, but you can do navigation, you can customize it. Mercedes does a pretty good job of letting you do that. The steering wheel with the capacitive controls, some people don't like. I don't mind it. I think it works well. But yeah, that's basically a quick overview of the Mercedes EQE 350. By the way, this is where you would change your drive modes here. You would access quick vehicle controls. Then you have your power for the screen, mute for audio. You can also slide volume here as you can on the steering wheel. So that is nice to see. This does, I won't do it, but it does have the Hey M word wake command. So if you don't want to use Siri on CarPlay or Google on Android Auto, you can use the Mercedes wake command. But yeah, let me just step outside one more time, give a quick overview of my thoughts and impressions of basically just the car as it is standing still, not actually driving or any of the dynamics. So like I said, Genesis G80 electric, maybe some base models of the Porsche Taycan, which is considerably more sporty, or some of the variants of the Model S will be this competition. But is the sedan space, and the sedan space for EVs is not as hot as, let's say, compact UVs or SUVs right now. So as a result, I think Mercedes has a little bit less competition on their hands. Nonetheless, I do think there is some you know, some points to note here about how competitive this is. We will have a full review later, but I do think that just from the specs alone, what they provided, this is not looking like the sportiest vehicle in the world. It's not even just sporty for an EV, but like I mentioned earlier, like a gas E-Class that is a little bit probably cheaper than this with a inline six and the mild hybrid system, that's gonna be faster to 60. And I don't know about that. You know, your Model S, your Genesis G80 electric, those are going to be a little bit quicker. But overall, I mean, it's Mercedes. It's such a well-built car. The interior is a really nice space to be. I like the way they've implemented the glass roof. Those have been my impressions of, yeah, EQE 350 with the 4MATIC. So more to come on the actual driving experience of this, and full in-depth review. Either be me or Kyle or someone from Out of Spec, but we will have a review for you come embargo time. But in the meantime, that has been the Mercedes EQE 350. Stay tuned to our channel for more news on this car and all kinds of EVs, Lucid, Kyle's Plaid, whatever you want to learn about. Well, we're going to have coverage of it. But yeah, Mercedes EQE 350. Thanks so much for watching.